Welcome back to Eagles-Centric, and we have a jam-packed show here today, as usual. Now, some of the guys really stood out in the Eagles OTAs, and we're going to jump into all of that, of course. And which wide receiver do you think will flourish this training camp and just take that wide receiver 3 role by the neck? Dontavian Wicks, Elijah Moore, or will it be Hollywood Brown? You guys let me know down below in the comments. Now, I have a guy out of those 3 that I think is going to do it, and I'm going to give you good reasons why, but we're going to jump into that a little later. Also, we're going to keep the intro. I know in the last 2 episodes we said we're done with the intro because of the whole A.J. Brown stuff, but no. We're going to keep the intro because it has some of our greatest Eagles memories in it, of course, but we're going to keep it. But moving forward, we will change it during the regular season, so be looking forward to that. Anyways, let me shut up. Let's get right to it. Eagles-Centric.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
He's at the 20.
They should stop this one.
Domination! Snot bubbles!
He throws. Complete. Touchdown. They've got him again. They've got him again. Sack.
Crumpler, what a throw, what a hit, what a catch.
Defense is just way too much for the count.
It's caught by Alshon Jeffrey for a touchdown. Pushes. Touchdown. Jalen Hunt. Touchdown. A.J. Brown. A run. He's going to score.
It's a touchdown by Nick Foles.
The train is in the end zone. Touchdown.
Torrey Smith
In for the touchdown is Jeffrey in. Touchdown. Jalen Hurts.
Now, the guys are really turning up in Eagles OTAs, and one of the guys that really caught my eye automatically was Markell Bell. Now, Bell is getting a lot of reps in OTAs, and we know why, because Lane Johnson is going into what many think is his last year. And if he's going into retirement, we do need a guy that's going to step up for that tackle position, and Markell Bell has been looking like a stud in OTAs. Reports have been coming in. Markell Bell has been getting, first team reps. And, you know, the future could be in Markell Bell. Like, what do we think? What are we thinking? Like, is Markell Bell going to be the future for Lane if Lane ends up retiring after this season? I think he can be. He's huge. He's just as big as Jordan Mailata. Mailata even called him a guy that's out of this planet. So he's getting a lot of good compliments already from some of the vets that's already at the link. But I think Bell can really step into that role. Now, he had a lot of positives at Miami, and we talked about that, right? I predicted that whole draft. I predicted that pick. I knew we were going to get Markell Bell. He's similar to how he likes to get. We like to get those huge guys on the line, just bruise people because of the run game is so important in Philly. So Markell Bell is getting inserted in OTAs, and I love to hear it. Now, like I said, Lane Johnson has been out, but it's voluntary OTA. He hasn't been dealing with an injury or anything. He's healthy, so that's a positive and thumbs up. But Lane has been getting some work in, right? He's on his own. We know Lane is still going to make sure he paves the lane and does what he needs to do, even when he's not in the building. As I said, do we think Bell could be the future? I do, right? He's huge. I don't have his numbers, how big he is right in front of me, but we know that Bell is just humongous. And if we can just get him to be a little better on his feet against those smaller guys like a Micah Parsons, a guy with the size of Hassan Reddick, those guys, those similar builds. I know Parsons is probably a little bigger than Hassan Reddick, but like I said, those smaller edge rushers and those smaller defensive linemen that are going to be challenging Markell Bell during the regular season. Now, I think he will be able to handle it. We got this new offensive lineman coach, Chris Cooper, and we've been hearing a lot about him, right? We've been seeing him getting on the guys. He's been really, really working the guys. I was listening to 97.5 The Fan, and Dave Zangaro was saying how Chris Cooper was really, really working the guys out and just installing his scheme and really putting the guys to work. And that's something that we love to hear. We know Chris Cooper doesn't have the best background as far as an offensive lineman coach. I think he was in Minnesota. But we know he doesn't have the best background as far as offensive lineman coaching and, just hasn't been able to really get the full potential out of the guys that he's coached in the past. Now, that doesn't mean he can't do that in Philly. Like I said, we've been hearing nothing but good things coming out of Philly, and we know the reporters are going to let you know exactly how these guys are performing in OTAs. And so far, Chris Cooper is doing this job. And if we hear his name during the season, then that means it's time to panic. So, like I said, Bell getting inserted for Lane Johnson early. Let's get him in. Let's get him inserted into the scheme. Let's get him inserted with the playbook. Let's, get him familiar with everyone else on the line. He's already getting compliments from guys like Jordan Mailata. Good to hear. Now, quick little update on our superstar guy who we all have so much, just huge expectations in, Makai Lemon. He was out with the hamstring, and he won't practice that. I heard that he won't practice again until training camp, but I think I've seen him in OTAs, if I'm not mistaken. But Makai Lemon was out with the hamstring during OTAs this week. Nothing too big to worry about. It was something minor there. The Eagles staff are going to make sure they look over that stuff. So nothing too big, but Makai Lemon is stepping into his role, wide receiver 2, and I think he has so much expectation on him early, and we really want him to come in and get comfortable and not have all that pressure. But he does, because he's filling in a huge role, even though he isn't the same type of receiver. He's filling in the shoes of a receiver that left here and played a big part. But I think Makai Lemon can really flourish, and you guys know I'm a big Makai Lemon guy over here. But like I said, he was out with the hamstring, and nothing too big to worry about. I'm ready to see him in training camp, so got that. Which brings me into the topic that I asked you guys in the intro. Which receiver do you think will flourish out of the 3 guys that are getting ready and prepared to take over this wide receiver 3 role? Now, we have 3 guys: Elijah Moore, Dontavian Wicks, and Hollywood Brown. Now, we've been hearing a lot about Hollywood Brown in OTAs. He looks really good. He has some injury history, not a lot to be worried about. But listen, he is a speedster. We know he's a speedster. He's very quick. He can stretch the field. And he's a veteran. He's moved around in the league, but he's had success for the most part in the NFL. And has really made the most of his opportunities wherever he happens to land. Now, with these intermediate routes, I say it all the time, you're going to get sick of me speaking about the intermediate routes. Because we know with guys in burners like Hollywood Brown stretching the field, that is going to make it so much easier to get these intermediate routes off that we know Jalen Hurts is going to be doing, over the middle, passes over the middle and stuff like that. Makai Lemon is going to be working the inside, and that is going to help stretch the field. You open it up for guys like Makai Lemon, and burners like Hollywood Brown are also going to get their opportunities downfield. We know Jalen is good with the deep ball, so this is a good setup already. And this whole setup will ultimately give defenses a headache, deciding whether to defend underneath or the deep ball. And you can go so many ways with this new offense. You can get cooked on the outside by Wicks and Smitty's route running, or get beat up by Makai Lemon on the inside, or Hollywood Brown in the slot, or vice versa. It's so many things you can do. It's very, very creative. And not to mention the run game with Saquon. Let's not forget. So although Hollywood Brown is fighting for a starting role, I still believe he's going to be a big contributor to what the Eagles are trying to do offensively under Sean Mannion. But then we have Dontavian Wicks. Now, this is the guy who I have prevailing in camp, grabbing that wide receiver 3 position by the neck, as I said. I mean, even Quinyon Mitchell was raving about Wicks' route running ability, saying he's underrated, and the way he releases at the top of his routes is very, very impressive. And when have we ever known Q to just throw out compliments randomly? Never. Now, Sean Mannion, as we know, was in Green Bay with Dontavian Wicks, and if the reports are true that the Birds are incorporating this new Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay system, one that is also familiar with Wicks, that is the reason why I think he will win the job. He really has a chance to win this position, and he'll probably get acclimated to the scheme quicker because he's, so used to the system. Now, with Green Bay, Wicks didn't really get a chance to reach his full potential because with a team like the Packers, who are wide receiver by committee, there were never a true number 1 over there. There was never a number 1 receiver. You had Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, and let's just say the wide receiver room was flooded, to say the least. Now, Wicks have struggled with drops in the past, and in OTAs, he reportedly had a couple of drops. Now, I'm not really concerned about that, but it is something to, keep in mind. Now, then we go to Elijah Moore. Now, at this point in his career, we know what Elijah Moore is. He's a veteran, but he's explosive and very elusive, bounced around the league a little bit from the Jets to the Browns and the Bills, now to Philly. Elijah, similar to Wicks, failed to reach his full potential, but in that case, he still did what he did in Baltimore, meaning he had a pretty good role. He had a couple of good plays, but he played with the Jets and in Cleveland also. So, in his case, he didn't really ever have the chance to play with the best set of quarterbacks or like a young receiving core that was like, talented, very, very talented. It was just Elijah Moore. But now he's fighting for that wide receiver 3 role in a room full of guys who I honestly think has a chance to win the position. Now, although Moore played with the very bad QBs in the past, he's came up clutch in a couple of big moments for the Bills. So hopefully he can bring that similar production to Philly and that veteran football wisdom, translate that in some sort of success for the Birds this season. And I honestly believe Mannion will give the role to the best receiver in the room. Not the fastest, not the most athletic. It's whoever can get acclimated with the scheme and master this new playbook the fastest. So who do you got? Do you have Wicks, Hollywood Brown, or are you going with the veteran in Elijah Moore? Now we jump back to OTAs, and Hurts has been seen under center a ton, using different packages, handing the ball off from under center, and also has been using the middle of the field. In the Birds, I feel like will use Saquon Barkley a bit more, also a bit differently. Not a ton, but in the pass game. Because Hurts threw an interception to Jeremiah Trotter that was followed up by a deep shot to Saquon Barkley for a touchdown. So the guys are battling it out, and Hurts is learning this new scheme minute by minute. But once he does, and I just hope it's before week 6 of the season, Jalen will really show a lot of doubters that he can make these throws and is supremely talented. So let's be prepared for that rise once, Breed of One gets that again. But like I said, Barkley, I think, will get the ball a little bit more in the pass game. Not a ton, but we'll use him a little differently. In 2024, Barkley had a ton of runs, a ton of handoffs, and he got the ball a lot. And in 2025, it kind of went down a little bit due to production, due to injuries, due to all sorts of things. But this time around with the new offensive coordinator, Sean Mann, new scheme, implementing that, I think they're going to use him in a different way. And that's why I think we're also going to be using Tank Bigsby. We've been grabbing a couple of running backs. I forgot the guy from the 49ers off the top of my head. But we've been grabbing running backs in past years like Will Shipley, also with Saquon. Now, that was a good 1-2 punch, 2024. But Tank Bigsby really showed us like, hey, there's a running back 2 in the room. Let's, make it happen. So I think with, Tank Bigsby, who opened it up a lot last year when Saquon wasn't in, third downs, second downs, when Saquon Barkley was even banged up just a little bit in those games, Tank Bigsby had a big role and had a lot of good moments for the Birds. I think if we're using Saquon a lot in the pass game, we're also going to be able to use Tank Bigsby in the run game and mix it up a lot like that. It's going to be awesome. Sean Mannion is really, really creative, and we're starting to get just a glimpse of what he's going to be running this season for the Birds. Now, one of my favorites to come out of OTAs this week is cornerback Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen is tall as hell, way taller than all the other cornerbacks in the cornerback group. Just look at it. And Woolen was balling out at OTAs. He reportedly broke up a deep ball from Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith, getting his arm in the way at the right time, right before Smitty could make the catch, using that size and length pause. And as I said, Woolen is using like everything, his whole body, and I think we're going to be able to use that in a great way for the defense. I think this defense is even better now with the acquisition of Jonathan Grenard and Tariq Woolen. So let's just be ready for that. I can't wait for him to show his ability for the Birds this season. And we know Woolen is a chirper, so he's not one of those guys that's just going to sit back and let the defense get bullied in any way, right? Like, look out for Woolen. I think he's going to be balling out for real this season. So, of course, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be getting into every single thing else that's going on with the Birds. Training camp is right around the corner, so let's get prepared for that. These battles, wide receiver 3 battles, are going to be amazing to watch. Safety battles are going to be crazy to see. Cooper DeJean is inserting himself into that safety position a little bit more. Fangio wants to see base defense, safety, Cooper DeJean there more. So we're going to see that. We have Michael Carter in the building who could be moving to safety. We have other guys like Marcus Epps, who's the veteran. Will Howie go and get another safety? I don't think we need to. I think this defense, like I said, has gotten even better with the acquisitions that Howie has brought. So, we'll see what Howie does with that. But like I said, the battles and training camp, we have joint practice coming up with the Patriots. And I hope Quinion and those guys don't go out there with all the lovey-dovey crap. Let's go out there and really get to it. Let's talk. Let's chirp. Yeah, you're a sellout. You don't have no backbone. You have no spine. You suck. Yes, let's do it. I'm ready. Preseason is right around the corner. And guys, when you really think about it, everything is right around the corner. Everything is very, very soon. Just put your wading pants on and yeah, man, let's get ready. So like I said, we'll cover everything else. Of course, you guys know the routine here. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that in between. And man, be blessed. Go Birds. Listen, I'm not getting my hopes up for Max Crosby. Not to say that I don't know who our GM is. Of course, the Wizard, Howie Roseman. But, you know, lately, all of these guys who we think Howie's going to go out and grab, these dream picks, these fantasy picks, so should I say, you know, Howie doesn't really go and grab those. And we really did do well as far as just getting another edge rusher. Jonathan Grenard is who we all kind of seen coming, and it happened, and we were happy about it. But I'm going to let Howie surprise me. If he goes out and get him, he goes out and get him. Now, a lot of people are saying Max Crosby is going to play, and that value that decreased when the Ravens said, shoo, fly, get out of here, is going to go back up. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, it could. You know, Max Crosby is Max Crosby. So I don't think the Raiders are going to be looking on to move on from him again and just get lower draft capital than what they got before. I still don't think that value is just going to skyrocket. It could, it should, it would. Who knows if it does? But if it does, I'll be wrong. I'll come here and say I'm wrong. And if Howie grabs him, I'll be glad to be wrong. That's something that I'll be glad to say I was wrong about. But as of now, I'm not getting my hopes up for the Max Crosby trade. Not because I don't know who our GM is, as I've said. It's just I think the defensive line is set. I think some of the guys have something to prove. And, you know, we're good to go. Now, how he does it, to be honest, the position that I think he should go and tackle, if you want to go and tackle any other position, like, I'm with you guys when it comes to what position does he need, like, not even a huge need, but something that you could just, you know, a position that he could get a good player in, and it could just, like, basically solidify the entire defense, no holes, no questions, no anything, is a safety. Right? Like, I'm good with the safety position, the safety group that we have as of now. But if he went and got a safety, I wouldn't be mad about it. That'll literally just lock the whole defense down. We have no more worries, no more holes. Everything would be pretty fine. No more questions about anything. So, yeah, as I've said. But, you know, I just want to let you guys know that, of course, I'm not getting so over the moon and just, you know, I'm not going to be just waiting by the phone for a Max Crosby trade with the Birds. And even during the regular season, I probably won't even be thinking about that. So, you know, if it happens, it happens. If we need an edge rusher by that time, maybe. But if not, then I won't be mad about it. But like I said, you guys know the routine. Egocentric.